In this diagram, you can see this is fetal skull and this is maternal pelvis. So these are the bones of the skull. Here it is base and here it is face. So something about fetal skull. Vertex, it is a quadrangular area bounded anteriorly by the bregma and coronal sutures, behind by the lambda and lambdoid sutures, and laterally by the line passing through the parietal eminences. In this you can see this is whole vertex, this is base which is incompressible. Here you can see like this lines, these are sutures and here these are fontanelli, and these are divided by the bones, different bones. This is frontal bones, there are two frontal bones, two parietal bones, one occipital bone. So overall there are 5 bones, and vertex is the area over the parietal bone. This is anterior fontanelli and this is posterior fontanelli. So whole of the parietal bones include under vertex, and this is from the anterior fontanelli to the posterior fontanelli. So the brow, it is an area bounded on one side by the anterior fontanelli and coronal sutures, and on the other side by the root of the nose and supraorbital ridges on either side. So this is brow portion, this is anterior fontanelli and here it is the root of the nose. So this frontal bone included in the also known as the sincipit or the brow. Then face, it is an area bounded on one side by the root of the nose and supraorbital ridges, and on the other by the junction of the floor of the mouth with the neck. So this is supraorbital ridges and the root of the nose. From here the face extends, here it is mentum or the chin, and here it is the root of the floor of the mouth. So this is face, this is sincipit or the brow, and this parietal bones, these are under vertex, and posterior occipital bone, here it is the occipital protuberance, and this is taken as the denominator or the bony point. So about sutures, one is these are parietal bones, this is occipital bone, these are frontal bones. So this suture, central suture, this is known as the sagittal suture, extend from the anterior fontanelli to the posterior fontanelli, and this suture between the parietal and the frontal bone, this is coronal suture on either side. On posteriorly these are lambda and lambdoid sutures. So by the joining these two parietal, two frontal bones, there is space is created. This is anterior fontanelli and this is diamond shaped, while it is a membranous and remains membranous till 1.5 year. And this is posterior fontanelli and it is a bony depression, and it consists of 3 sutures, while anterior it is 4 sutures. So importance is it tells about the engagement of the head, degree of internal rotation of the head, and the degree of the molding of the head, because by sutures we can see that whether the head is flexed or whether it is in which direction and rotated or not. Anterior fontanelli or the bregma and the posterior fontanelli. So anterior fontanelli is formed by the joining of the 4 sutures, and these are frontal, posteriorly sagittal, and on the either side coronal. It is diamond shape, and it becomes pathological if it fails to ossify even after 24 months. Otherwise it ossify at 1.5 year of the birth. So what is the importance of anterior fontanelli? Its palpation through the internal examination denotes the degree of the flexion of the head. It facilitates molding of the head, because normally when the head is well flexed, there is the anterior fontanelli is not felt, only the posterior fontanelli is felt. So when we examine and we find anterior fontanelli on pervaginal examination, means head is extended, and as it remains membranous long after birth, it helps in the accommodating the marked brain growth and the brain becoming almost double its size during the first year of life. Palpation of the floor reflects intracranial status, and it is depressed in the dehydration and elevated in raised intracranial tension, and we can draw CSF from this. Posterior fontanelle, it is a junction of 3 suture line. It is triangular in shape and measures about 1.2 by 1.2 by centimeter. Its floor is membranous but becomes bony at term. It denotes the position of the head in relation to the maternal pelvis. Means when this posterior fontanelle is in which part of the pelvis, means it is anterior or the posterior or the left or right. So these are the diameters of the fetal skull. First is suboccipitobregmatic, and you can see in the diagram. This is occipital part. So when this is vertex, it is a quadrilateral area on the parietal bone. So it is a suboccipital region. From here it is suboccipitobregmatic. This is suboccipitobregmatic. This is in complete flexion and it is 9.5 centimeter. And this is suboccipitofrontal. This is suboccipitobregmatic. This is suboccipitofrontal, and this is 10 centimeter. It is in the incompletely flexed vertex. So it is complete flexion, it is incompletely flexion, and third is deflexed vertex, means it is occipitofrontal. So this is at the center of the bregma. The second is at the anterior end of the bregma, and the third occipitofrontal is at the root of the nose. So these three are in the vertex presentation. And in the face presentation, when the head is extended, so it is there are two diameters. One is submentobregmatic, again it is 9.5 centimeter, and the other one is submentovertical. It is not depicted in this picture. Submentovertical, it is incompletely extended. This is complete extension, and this is submentovertical on the vertex, in the center of this vertex. So this is 11 centimeter. And the next is when the head is in between the extension and the flexion, then it is mentovertical. This is mento and vertical. It is 14 centimeter and it is in the largest diameter over this skull. So when the head is in complete flexion, means suboccipitobregmatic, it is round shape, 7.5 centimeter. And if it is deflexed, then it is occipitofrontal, shape is oval. Incomplete extension, mentovertical, and it is bigger oval, and complete extension again almost round. So whether it is a complete flexion or complete extension, the shape is almost round. So something about molding. Molding is the alteration of the shape of the forecoming head while passing through the resistant birth passage during labor. So there is compression of the engaging diameter of the head with corresponding elongation of the diameter at the right angle to it. During this procedure, the parietal bones tend to overlap the adjacent bones. For example, the occipital bone behind and the frontal bone in front, and the temporal bones at the sides. And this molding disappears within few hours after birth. So grading. In this grading means the sutures are becoming nearby. So in grade 1, the bones are touching but not overlapping. In grade 2, overlapping occur but it is easily separated, means it is reducible overlapping. But in grade 3, it is irreducible overlapping, and slight molding is inevitable and beneficial. It enables the head to pass through the birth canal more easily. But extreme molding is made in disproportion and may produce severe intracranial disturbances in the form of tearing of the tentorium cerebelli and or subdural hemorrhage. So when there is irreducible overlaying, means it shows some cephalopelvic disproportion and may cause fetal morbidity. And this shape of the molding can be useful information about the position of the head. So caput succedaneum, what it is? It is the formation of the swelling due to stagnation of the fluid in the layers of the scalp beneath the girdle of the contact. Means girdle of contact means when the head comes into the diameter of the pelvis, that is girdle of the contact. So when it comes in contact, then it is a soft tissue swelling and it disappears within 24 hours. It is not bounded by the bony marking and it is just a subcutaneous swelling, and it disappears within 24 hours. Now something about maternal pelvis. False pelvis and the true pelvis. This false pelvis is formed by the iliac portion of the innominate bones and is limited above by the iliac crest And true pelvis is shallow in front, formed by the symphysis pubis, measures 4 cm, deep posteriorly, and it is formed by the sacrum and the coccyx and measures 11.5 cm. It is divided into inlet cavity and the outlet. You can see in this pink shading is for the false pelvis. It is iliac crest, posteriorly the lumbar vertebra, and here it is above the. So this round shape is of the inlet. Above this it is a false pelvis. It has no importance except it holds the baby during the later months of the pregnancy. This blue shading is for true pelvis, and this is it includes sacrum. These are the pubic symphysis, pubic bones. These are the posteriorly it is ischial part. So these are the bony boundary of this pelvic inlet. This pelvic inlet is just a plane. It is not a space. It is just a plane, and there are 9 markers for the boundary. It is the symphysis pubis upper border. It is the pubic crest. Then pubic tubercle, here it is pectineal line, then here it is iliopectineal eminence, this is iliopectineal line, then this sacroiliac joint, this is ala of the sacrum, anterior border, and the sacral promontory. So like this on this side and this side, so it forms a round shape of the inlet, and this inlet is round shape, and it is inclined at an angle of 55 degree, because this pelvis is not a straight, it is inclined at an 55 degree with the horizon, and the axis is always perpendicular to the plane. So axis is, because it is tilted anteriorly by the 55 degree, so the axis will be downward and the backward. So the anterior posteriorly there are 3 conjugate diameter. These are 2 conjugate, obstetric conjugate, and the diagonal conjugate. So you can say in this diagram these are antero-posterior diameter. These are antero-posterior diameter from the upper border symphysis to the sacral promontory. This is true conjugate or the anatomical conjugate, and this is 11 centimeter. The second is obstetrical conjugate. This is from the sacral promontory to the nearest point on this posterior surface of the pubic symphysis, because it is convex posteriorly, so it will be less, so it is 10 centimeter. Then third one is from the sacral promontory to the lower border of the pubic symphysis. This is diagonal from the here upper, here lower, so it is diagonal 12 centimeter. So importance of this diagonal conjugate is because here it is empty, here it is pubic symphysis, so here empty space, so we can do pervaginal examination and we can reach this sacral promontory, but we cannot measure this one and second one. So indirectly by this diagonal conjugate, which can be measured clinically, and we can determine these 2 diameters. These are antero-posterior diameter. Then these are 3. Now the transverse diameter of the inlet. So these are antero-posterior diameter, 3 antero-posterior. This is transverse diameter. This transverse diameter is this is iliopectineal line, and it is the distance between 2 furthest apart point on this pelvic brim. This is transverse diameter, and this is 13 centimeter. So that was the 11, 10 and 12, these diagonal conjugate, and this transverse diameter is 13 centimeter. There are 2 oblique diameters. One is from this is right side of the pelvis, so it is right oblique diameter, and this is left side, so left oblique diameter from the back side, and these are 2 oblique diameter from the sacroiliac joint on one side and iliopectineal eminence on the other side. These are 12 centimeter. So this is 11 anatomical, and this is 13, and this is 12 centimeter. Cavity is a segment of the pelvis bounded above by the inlet, which is a plane, and below by the plane of the least pelvic dimension. This is round shape, and the plane of the greatest pelvic dimension, the plane extends from the midpoint of the posterior surface of the symphysis pubis at the junction of the second and the third sacral vertebra, because this sacral vertebra consists of 5 segments. So in the mid it will be second and third, in between the third, and on the anteriorly pubic symphysis, midpoint of the posterior surface. So at this level the diameter is greatest dimension, and the axis is, because it is a round almost, so axis is downward. So at the inlet it is downward and backward, then it is downward, and the anterior posterior diameter measures from the midpoint of the posterior surface of symphysis to the junction of the S2-3 vertebra, and the transverse is 12 centimeter. So now the time is over, so the remaining part will be in the next lecture. So thank you so much.